Stop scrolling. Stop looking for the next video that promises secrets but delivers nothing, because what I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about attraction, desire, and power. Most men are blind to this, and most women won't tell you. They chase the men who refuse the very things you're trying to give. You might think it's about looks, money, or status, but that's the biggest lie you've ever been told. Attraction isn't something you earn by proving yourself. It's something you command by what you refuse. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly why 98% of men are invisible to the women they desire, and why the rare few become magnetic without trying. You'll understand the behaviors, the mindset, and the inner power that naturally draws women in ways you've never experienced. You'll learn the secrets that most men never hear, because society wants you chasing approval, validation, and attention instead of building real authority. And here's the truth that will shock you. Women chase men who refuse validation, refuse to over-explain themselves, refuse to fall into chaos, and refuse to lower their standards. That's it. No gimmicks, no tricks, no luck, just principles so powerful that if you apply them, you will stand out, command attention, and be pursued without asking for it. So if you're tired of being ignored, tired of chasing, tired of giving away your power for temporary approval, stay with me until the very end. I promise what you're about to discover will open your eyes, challenge everything you thought you knew about attraction, and leave you ready to step into a level of confidence, control, and magnetic presence that most men can only dream of. Watch closely, because this is not a video you can afford to scroll past. Most men believe that attraction is about what they have or what they can give. They think it's about wealth, looks, or social status. They think if they just dress a certain way, drive a certain car, or talk a certain way, they'll automatically be noticed. And yet, time and time again, we see the exact same pattern. Younger women are drawn to men who don't fit that pattern at all. The ones who don't chase, the ones who don't seek approval, the ones who live life on their own terms. That is the paradox most men fail to understand. Age itself is irrelevant. It is not the numbers on your birth certificate that create attraction. It is the way you carry yourself, the energy you emit, and the emotional authority you command in a room. Think about it carefully. When a man walks into a space and everyone notices him, it is rarely because he is trying hard to be seen. It's because he doesn't need to be seen. There's a subtle power in that. There's an unmistakable magnetism in the kind of man who is grounded in his purpose, who is unapologetically himself, and who does not derive his self-worth from the attention or validation of others. Younger women instinctively recognize this energy. They don't need to analyze it, they feel it. And this feeling creates desire in a way that words, money, or appearances never can. Attraction at its core is a response to emotional security. It is a response to someone who has mastered themselves. Think about it. What is more compelling? A man who is constantly seeking approval, who changes his behavior based on who he is with, or a man who stands firm, who knows what he wants, and who refuses to compromise his essence for anyone? The answer is obvious, but most men never realize it because society teaches them the opposite. They are taught to chase, to please, to bend, to perform. They are taught that showing their weaknesses, explaining their intentions, or trying harder will make them more desirable. But in reality, the opposite is true. Younger women are not chasing age. They are chasing mastery, the mastery of one's own mind, emotions, and life. When a man refuses to bend to external pressures, when he chooses his values over temporary approval, when he stands calmly in a world of chaos, he becomes rare. And rarity is irresistible. It is scarcity, not abundance, that creates desire. When a man is whole and complete on his own, he does not compete for attention. Attention comes naturally to him because he embodies something most people do not: the certainty of self. Psychologically, this is rooted in human behavior. Women, like men, are drawn to competence and confidence, but there is a deeper layer here. It is not just competence in skills or intelligence. It is competence in being able to navigate life without being consumed by external validation, being able to respond to challenges without panic, being able to make decisions without hesitation. These qualities signal strength, stability, and security. They communicate that a man can protect, lead, and sustain, not in a literal physical sense necessarily, but emotionally and psychologically. And this is the kind of attraction that lasts beyond the superficial. It creates a pull that is impossible to resist because it is anchored in the very essence of human instinct. Now, understand this, mastery does not mean arrogance. It does not mean coldness or detachment. It means presence. It means clarity. It means knowing who you are, what you value, and refusing to compromise those things for temporary approval. A man who has mastered himself does not react to every slight, every opinion, or every trend. He is deliberate in his actions and calm in his energy. And younger women, consciously or unconsciously, sense this. They are drawn to it because it contrasts sharply with the chaos most men exude, the neediness, the desperation, the constant search for validation. There is also a philosophical dimension here. When you live your life aligned with your purpose, unshaken by external approval, you tap into a form of freedom that very few experience. Most people spend their lives trying to fit in, trying to be liked, trying to be chosen. But the man who is whole on his own has transcended that. He lives in alignment with his values and passions. He does not chase life, life responds to him. And younger women are instinctively aware of this shift in energy. They feel the difference between a man who needs and a man who commands. They are drawn to the latter because it signals a rare kind of strength, a rare kind of stability, a rare kind of security that is impossible to manufacture or fake. This is why so many younger women will chase men who refuse to chase them. They recognize value beyond superficial measures. They recognize self-mastery. They recognize purpose. And here is the most important truth you need to understand. You do not create attraction by performing, by giving, by pleading. You create attraction by becoming someone who cannot be ignored because of the authority and stability you embody. You create desire by refusing to compromise your self-worth, by refusing to chase external approval, and by refusing to let the opinions of others dictate your actions. This is the foundation of magnetic attraction, and it is available to any man who is willing to cultivate it. So, what does this mean for you? It means that if you are chasing validation, if you are bending for attention, if you are constantly seeking approval, you are playing the wrong game. You are competing with 98% of men who do the same thing and therefore will remain invisible to the women you desire. But if you refuse that trap, if you stand firm, grow relentlessly, and focus on mastering your mind, your emotions, and your life, you automatically become someone that younger women notice, respect, and are drawn to without effort. You become rare, you become magnetic. The ultimate lesson here is simple but profound. Attraction is not a strategy, it is a state of being. It is the result of cultivating inner authority, emotional stability, and self-respect. When you invest in becoming whole, when you refuse to seek approval, when you live aligned with your purpose, you do not chase women. Women chase you. And that is the truth that Saint men will never understand, but the ones who do will never be ignored. So take this message seriously. Stop chasing, start mastering, become the man who does not need validation, the man who cannot be shaken by chaos, the man who refuses to compromise his standards. When you do this, you will no longer ask why women are drawn to some men and not others. You will simply watch as they come to you, drawn by a force that is deeper than looks, money, or age, a force that cannot be bought, taught, or faked. It is the force of self-mastery, and it is yours if you choose to claim it. Remember this, the most magnetic man in any room is never the one who tries the hardest. It is the one who refuses to try for validation at all. Be that man, stand firm in your worth, build your life, master yourself, and watch as the world and the women you desire are drawn to the power you carry naturally. One of the most shocking truths most men never realize is this: chasing attention, constantly seeking approval, or trying too hard to be liked destroys attraction instantly. Yet almost every man falls into this trap without even knowing it. They text too much, they explain themselves endlessly, they bend over backwards to prove they are worthy. They think if they just try harder, if they just say the right words, if they just show enough effort, they will finally be noticed, desired, or respected. But the reality is the exact opposite. Desire is not created through pursuit. Desire is created through refusal. Desire is created by the man who does not need to convince anyone of his worth. Imagine a man who never begs for attention, a man who does not panic when someone doesn't respond immediately, a man who does not over-explain his actions, intentions, or feelings. Imagine the presence he carries. There is power in that silence. There is magnetism in that calm. Women, especially younger women, sense it immediately. They feel it. They are drawn to it without even thinking. It is not about arrogance or indifference. It is about inner authority and self-possession. The man who refuses to seek validation communicates something far deeper than any words ever could. He communicates that he knows his value, and because he knows it, no one else has to prove it to him. Think about human behavior for a moment. People are instinctively attracted to competence, but there is a subtle distinction here. Competence is not just about skill or intelligence. It is about confidence in being. When a man is confident in his worth, when he does not need to justify himself, when he refuses to chase external approval, he exudes a quiet authority. That authority signals strength, stability, and emotional security. It signals to women that he is not easily swayed, that he has boundaries, and that he cannot be manipulated by desire or expectation. And there is something incredibly irresistible about that. Most men, however, confuse effort with value. They believe that by texting more, by complimenting more, by explaining more, they are increasing their desirability. The exact opposite happens. When a man chases validation, he communicates neediness. He communicates insecurity. He communicates a lack of self-control. And nothing kills attraction faster than insecurity disguised as effort. Women, consciously or unconsciously, sense this immediately. They are drawn not to the man who rise the hardest, but to the man who does not need to try at all. That is the paradox most men never understand. The harder they chase, the less visible they become to the people they want most. Now consider the power of refusal. Refusal does not mean being cold or detached. It does not mean ignoring someone completely or acting cruelly. It means choosing your energy wisely. It means valuing your presence enough not to give it away to anyone who does not appreciate it. It means creating a space where your attention is earned, not begged for. And here is the key. When a man does this consistently, he becomes rare. Rarity always creates desire. When attention is not freely given, it becomes precious. When effort is not wasted, it becomes meaningful. And when a man refuses to chase validation, he is sending an unspoken message that he has standards, that he values himself, and that he will not compromise his worth for anyone's approval. That message, more than anything else, draws women toward him. There is also a psychological principle at work here. Scarcity increases perceived value. When a man gives everything away too easily, when he seeks attention constantly, he devalues himself. But when a man withholds effort until it is respected, when he refuses to over-explain or over-justify, he elevates his presence. Women sense this at a subconscious level. They are drawn to what is hard to attain, to what feels stable yet selective, to what feels confident without desperation. And make no mistake, younger women are highly sensitive to this dynamic. They do not consciously calculate it, but they feel it and they respond to it. Refusing validation also creates a space for emotional authority. When a man does not chase, he is free. Free to make decisions without fear of judgment. Free to live life on his terms. Free to choose whom to invest in and when. And freedom is magnetic. Women are drawn not to men who depend on them for self-worth, but to men who exist independently and confidently. This is why so many men wonder why women pursue other men, even when they appear less accomplished, or less appealing on the surface. It is because those men have refused the very thing most men cling to, the need for constant approval. They have created a power dynamic that shifts the game entirely. It is important to understand that refusal does not equate to arrogance. It does not mean pretending to be uninterested or playing manipulative games. It means embodying self-respect and refusing to sacrifice your dignity for attention. It means understanding that your time, energy, and focus are valuable, and that giving them away to earn validation is a waste of your power. A man who refuses validation communicates strength, not through words or actions designed to impress, but through the simple fact that he stands firm in his self-worth. That strength, that consistency, that calm authority, this is what creates attraction that is deep, lasting, and impossible to ignore. Consider how this applies in everyday life. When a man receives a text, he does not panic if it is not answered immediately. When a woman tests boundaries, he does not react with desperation. When faced with judgment or criticism, he does not over-explain or justify himself. His presence is steady, grounded, and unwavering. And women notice this. They feel it in every interaction. They sense the difference between someone who seeks approval and someone who refuses it. They sense the difference between a man whose confidence is borrowed from others and a man whose confidence is inherent. And that difference is powerful. It is the difference between being ignored and being pursued. The ultimate lesson is simple. You cannot create attraction by trying harder to be liked. You cannot manufacture desire by bending, explaining, or chasing. Desire is created by refusal, by self-respect, by refusing to give away your attention or energy to anyone who does not earn it. It is created by being someone who is whole, grounded, and secure. It is created by cultivating inner authority and emotional stability. And when you do this, you no longer have to chase anyone. The chase comes to you. Attention comes to you naturally. Women are drawn to the energy you carry, to the confidence you embody, to the strength you refuse to compromise. So if you are chasing validation today, if you are over-explaining, if you are bending to please others, stop, step back, reclaim your energy, refuse the need to be approved, build yourself, stand firm in your worth, cultivate your presence, become the man who does not need to chase attention to feel worthy, and watch as the dynamic shifts completely. Watch as desire finds you. Watch as the people you once pursued now pursue you. Remember this, attraction is not something you earn by effort. It is something you command by refusal. The more you refuse to seek validation, the more powerful, magnetic, and irresistible you become. The men who understand this are the men women chase. The men who ignore it are forgotten. Choose wisely, stand firm, refuse validation. Become the kind of man who is naturally, undeniably desired. Most men misunderstand what it means to command respect. They believe that to be attractive, they must explain themselves endlessly. They believe that every action, every decision, every feeling must be justified. They think that if they talk long enough, if they clarify often enough, if they rationalize every choice, they will finally be seen, finally be respected, finally be desired. But the truth, the shocking truth, is that over-explaining destroys attraction. It erodes authority. It signals insecurity. It communicates the exact opposite of confidence. Younger women especially sense this immediately. They feel it in the way a man reacts, in the way he communicates, in the energy he carries, and they are drawn not to those who over-explain, but to those who command presence without words. Consider the man who does not over-explain himself. He does not justify his boundaries. He does not feel compelled to convince others that he is right. He does not attempt to manipulate perception through words. Instead, he stands firm. He states his intentions clearly, acts decisively, and allows his silence, his consistency, and his presence to do the rest. There is a subtle power in this approach, a force that is far more magnetic than any verbal persuasion. Women sense authority not in what a man says, but in what he embodies. They sense confidence, not in lengthy explanations, but in the quiet assurance of a man who does not feel the need to justify his existence. Think about it on a deeper level. Explaining yourself constantly communicates doubt. It communicates that you are unsure of your choices, unsure of your value, unsure of your position in the world. And nothing kills attraction faster than doubt disguised as politeness or transparency. A man who constantly over-explains is signaling a lack of inner authority. He is signaling that he is dependent on the approval of others to feel secure. And when a woman senses this, her respect diminishes, her desire diminishes, her attention diminishes. The man who over-explains is often invisible, even if he is doing all the right things externally. Contrast this with the man who refuses to over-explain. He does not debate or rationalize his decisions. He does not attempt to justify his boundaries. He does not seek to please or to be understood at every turn. He acts with clarity, he communicates with purpose, and he trusts that his actions, words, and presence are sufficient to convey his worth. And the effect is immediate. Women sense it. They feel it. They are drawn to it. Because this man does not beg to be understood, he communicates that he is complete on his own. He communicates that his value does not depend on validation, explanation, or persuasion. And there is a rare magnetic energy in that type of self-possession. Philosophically, this principle aligns with the idea that presence speaks louder than words. Words are only tools. They are instruments of communication, not measures of worth. When a man becomes reliant on words to assert his value, he is ceding power to perception. He is allowing others to define him. But the man who does not over-explain claims his authority internally first. He defines himself. He knows his boundaries, his intentions, and his worth, and he expresses these naturally, without pleading, without convincing, without effort. Women, consciously or unconsciously, recognize this distinction. They feel the weight of a man who knows himself and does not need permission to exist. That weight creates attraction. That weight creates respect. That weight commands attention. This principle also ties into psychology. Humans are naturally drawn to confidence, decisiveness, and competence. But there is a subtle difference between confidence and arrogance. Confidence is rooted in self-knowledge and self-possession. Arrogance is rooted in insecurity and the need to impress. The man who over-explains often falls into the trap of arrogance disguised as humility or diligence. He feels compelled to justify, defend, and persuade, but this need comes from a place of insecurity. The man who does not over-explain, on the other hand, exudes confidence because his self-worth is not dependent on external understanding. His presence communicates clarity, authority, and control. And these qualities are inherently attractive, especially to younger women who instinctively read these signals. Another important aspect is emotional control. Over-explaining is often a reaction to fear. The fear of being misunderstood, the fear of rejection, the fear of not being chosen. The man who refuses to over-explain has mastered this fear. He understands that his worth is not contingent on being constantly validated or approved. He responds, he acts, and he communicates with intention, not with desperation. And this mastery over emotional response creates a sense of calm authority. Women are drawn to calm authority because it signals strength, stability, and protection, not in a physical sense necessarily, but in a psychological and emotional sense. Consider how this principle applies in everyday interactions. When a man is challenged or questioned, he does not react with lengthy explanations or defensive reasoning. He responds with clarity and calm. When a woman tests boundaries, he does not bend or justify. He communicates his standards with certainty. When he faces judgment or criticism, he does not over-justify or over-explain. His actions, his words, and his inner speak louder than any rationalization could. And this consistency, this unshakable self-possession, is what creates deep, lasting attraction. The truth is this: Women are not drawn to the man who tries to explain himself into relevance. They are drawn to the man who exists fully without needing to justify his existence. They are drawn to the man who refuses to over-explain because it communicates something far more powerful than any words ever could. It communicates that he is complete, grounded, and secure. This type of presence is rare, and rarity is inherently magnetic. When a man refuses to over-explain, he elevates himself above the chaos of neediness, desperation, and insecurity that defines the majority of men. And in doing so, he becomes irresistible. So if you are constantly explaining yourself, justifying your actions, or trying to convince others of your worth, stop, take a step back, reclaim your energy, stand firm in your value without needing to rationalize it. Learn to trust that your presence, your consistency, and your self-possession are enough. Cultivate authority in how you exist, not in how you explain. Learn the art of being understood through action, intention, and energy, rather than through words, apologies, or justifications. And as you do this, you will notice a profound shift. Women will begin to notice you, attention will come naturally, desire will follow without effort. Respect will be automatic, not earned through explanation. Remember this, attraction is not created through persuasion. It is created through authority. It is not created through explanation. It is created through presence. The more you refuse to over-explain yourself, the more magnetic you become. The more grounded your energy, the more women are drawn to you. The more consistent your boundaries, the more respect you command. The men who understand this principle are rare, and it is that rarity that makes them irresistible. Stand firm. Speak with clarity. Act with intention. Let your presence do the talking. Refuse to over-explain, and watch as the world and the women you desire respond naturally to the strength you embody. The most magnetic men are never those who over-explain. They are those who understand that authority, clarity, and self-possession are the ultimate tools of attraction. Embrace this, master it, and you will no longer chase approval. Approval will chase you. Most men misunderstand what real attraction is. They think excitement, drama, or intensity is what draws women. They believe that chaos, unpredictability, and emotional extremes are signs of passion, that creating turbulence will make them irresistible. They chase intensity, believing that it equals desire, but the truth, the profound truth, is that most women, especially younger women, are not chasing excitement. They are chasing stability. They are drawn to men who remain grounded, composed, and calm when everything around them is in turmoil. They are drawn to men who can navigate life without being consumed by chaos. And yet so few men understand this principle. Think about it for a moment. A man who loses his composure at the first sign of conflict, who reacts impulsively to drama, who allows emotional storms to dictate his actions, is immediately disqualified. His energy is unstable, unpredictable, and exhausting. Women instinctively sense this. They feel the difference between a man who can maintain control over his own emotions and a man who is controlled by them. And in that distinction lies magnetic attraction. Calmness, composure, and emotional mastery create a sense of security, a sense of rare value that is impossible to replicate through material possessions, superficial charm, or flashy gestures. The man who embodies calm authority is magnetic because he offers something the world rarely does: emotional safety. In a world full of chaos, conflict, and uncertainty, a man who remains composed becomes a beacon. Women are drawn to him not just because he is unshakable, but because he represents a life they can rely on, a presence they can trust. It is not excitement that creates lasting attraction. It is the certainty of stability paired with controlled power. When a man demonstrates that he can handle chaos without losing himself, he signals mastery, strength, and value. These are qualities that women instinctively seek. Most men confuse activity with significance. They think that the louder they are, the more reactive they are, the more emotionally explosive they are, the more they are desired. But this is a grave mistake. Overreaction communicates weakness, dependency, and lack of control. It signals that your world revolves around external events rather than internal mastery. Younger women, consciously or unconsciously, pick up on this immediately. They are drawn to men who do not react to chaos with panic or drama, but who respond with clarity, purpose, and calm. That response creates intrigue. It creates respect. It creates desire. And it is impossible to manufacture. It comes only from a man who has mastered high self. Philosophically, this principle aligns with the timeless idea that mastery over self is the ultimate power. Those who are controlled by emotions are slaves to circumstance. Those who are calm and composed, even in chaos, command their own life. And the presence of such a man is magnetic because it is rare. In a world of reactionary energy, the man who refuses to be swept away by drama stands out immediately. He becomes a stabilizing force, someone people notice, admire, and seek. Women sense this authority intuitively. They do not need him to declare his strength. They feel it in the way he carries himself, in the consistency of his energy, in the way he handles every situation without being controlled by it. Consider how this principle applies in everyday life. When challenges arise, when conflict appears, when emotions run high, most men crumble, argue, or overreact. They lose control and, in doing so, lose attraction. The calm man, on the other hand, navigates the same situations with clarity. He assesses, he decides, he responds intentionally. He does not escalate unnecessarily. He does not seek to dominate or to prove anything. He simply remains steady, grounded, and focused. And that steadiness, that composure becomes magnetic. Women notice immediately. They are drawn to it. They are attracted to the certainty it communicates. Stability is not boring, it is rare, and rarity creates desire. Psychologically, calmness and composure also create trust. Women are drawn to men they can rely on emotionally, men whose reactions are consistent, predictable in the best sense, and controlled. Emotional volatility is exhausting, drama is distracting, but calm authority feels safe. It signals that the man can provide security, not just materially, but emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Younger women are particularly attuned to this dynamic because it connects directly to their subconscious evaluation of a man's long-term value. Stability is powerful, calmness is irresistible, and men who cultivate this energy are automatically elevated above the chaos of mediocrity. It is also important to recognize that calmness does not mean passivity. It does not mean avoiding action or suppressing emotion. It means control. It means mastery. It means responding rather than reacting. A man who embodies this quality is not meek or weak. He is disciplined, intentional, and deliberate. He chooses his responses, he manages his energy, and he maintains authority over his environment. Women are drawn to this type of energy because it signals competence, strength, and leadership. It signals that he is capable of handling life, responsibility, and relationships without being consumed by drama. And in a world where most men are reactive and chaotic, this makes him stand out immediately. The paradox is that calm authority feels effortless, but it is cultivated. It is the result of self-discipline, emotional intelligence, and consistent mastery over the mind and body. Most men avoid this work because it is uncomfortable, because it requires patience, self-reflection, and restraint. They would rather chase attention, create drama, or prove themselves externally. But the man who invests in emotional composure creates attraction without effort. His energy does the work. Women, especially younger women, are drawn to this because they sense that his calmness is not performative. It is natural, unshakable, and real. Consider this truth: excitement can attract temporarily, but stability attracts profoundly. Drama can create temporary interest, but calm authority creates loyalty and deep desire. The man who can maintain his composure while others react emotionally becomes magnetic because he is rare, strong, and reliable. This is why younger women often pursue men who refuse chaos. It is not about games or manipulation. It is about the quality of presence. It is about the energy that communicates mastery without needing to explain, justify, or impress. Calm authority is irresistible because it signals a man who is complete, controlled, and capable. So if you want to become the type of man younger women are naturally drawn to, cultivate calmness, composure, and emotional mastery, do not mistake chaos for excitement. Do not react impulsively. Do not allow drama to dictate your energy. Stand firm in your presence, respond with clarity, and maintain authority over your mind and emotions. As you do this, you will notice a profound shift in the way people, especially women, respond to you. You will notice attention, respect, and desire following naturally without effort or chasing. Remember this, attraction is not created through drama, excitement, or chaos. It is created through calm authority. It is created through composure, emotional control, and stability. The more you master your emotions, the more magnetic you become. The more steady your presence, the more women are drawn to you. The more intentional and controlled your responses, the more respect and desire you command. In a world of reactive men, calm authority is rare, and Riti is irresistible. Stand firm, remain composed, control your energy, respond, do not react. Cultivate calm authority, and watch as the world and the women you desire are drawn to the power you embody naturally. Stability is not weakness, it is strength. Calm is not indifference, it is mastery, and the man who achieves this will never be ignored. Most men never realize the power of standards. They believe that attraction is about compromise, about doing more, about bending to please others. They think that if they sacrifice their principles, lower their expectations, or tolerate disrespect, they will be desired. But the truth is shocking, and it is rarely said out loud. Women, especially younger women, are drawn to men who refuse to lower their standards, not because it makes them rigid or difficult, but because it signals self-respect, strength, and integrity. The man who chooses himself over temporary approval becomes rare, magnetic, and unforgettable. And this is where 98% of men fail. Consider how most men operate. They fear loneliness, they fear rejection, they fear missing out. And so they lower their standards, they accept disrespect, they tolerate behaviors that compromise their self-worth, they invest in people who do not deserve their time, attention, or energy. They chase affection, approval, and validation from those who do not value them. And in doing so, they become invisible to the women they desire. Neediness, desperation, and compromise destroy attraction, no matter how many external markers of success they display. Women sense it instantly. They feel the absence of self-respect, the absence of boundaries, the absence of integrity. And once that sense is perceived, desire vanishes. The man who refuses to lower his standards operates differently. He understands that his time, energy, and attention are precious resources. He does not give them away to anyone who does not respect them. He does not tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or dishonesty. He chooses solitude over compromise. He chooses self-respect over temporary validation. And that single choice changes everything. It elevates him above the crowd of men who are constantly bending, pleading, and compromising. Women, especially younger women, sense this immediately. They are drawn not to desperation, but to authority. They are drawn not to neediness, but to men who are selective, disciplined, and unwavering in their values. There is a psychological principle at work here. Humans are naturally drawn to confidence, consistency, and value. A man who refuses to lower his standards communicates that he values himself, that he is in control of his life, and that he cannot be manipulated by desire or circumstance. This is not arrogance, it is mastery. It is self-possession. It is the ability to define one's life on one's own terms. Women are attracted to this energy because it signals strength, security, and long-term reliability. It signals that this man cannot be swayed by superficial attention or temporary approval. And in a world where most men compromise their worth for instant gratification, this rare quality is magnetic. Philosophically, refusing to lower your standards is about integrity. It's about living in alignment with your values. It's about knowing what you deserve and refusing to accept anything less. Most men avoid this work because it is uncomfortable. They fear confrontation. They fear loneliness. They fear that being selective will cost them opportunities. But the reality is the opposite. By holding your standards high, you attract the right opportunities, the right people, and the right relationships. You create a life that reflects your worth rather than one dictated by others' approval. And women sense this. They are drawn to men who are aligned, disciplined, and self-respecting because they recognize the rarity of this energy. Let's examine this in practice. A man with high standards does not compromise his boundaries to please someone else. He does not tolerate disrespect or inconsistency. He does not sacrifice his values to gain temporary attention or affection. Instead, he maintains his principles, acts with integrity, and refuses to bend for convenience. And women notice. They feel the difference between a man who is grounded and selective and a man who is desperate to be liked. They are drawn to the former because it communicates that he is complete, secure, and in control of his life. Desire is not about proving yourself. It is about embodying self-respect in every decision. The irony is that men who refuse to lower their standards are often seen as hard to get or difficult. But this perception is precisely what makes them magnetic. Attraction is not about accessibility, it is about value. The more a man demonstrates that his worth is non-negotiable, the more women are drawn to him. This is why younger women chase men who refuse compromise. They sense that these men have cultivated discipline, integrity, and authority. They sense that they are choosing a man who is whole, consistent, and self-respecting. And in that dynamic, attraction is inevitable. Emotional intelligence plays a major role in this principle. A man who refuses to lower his standards is emotionally aware. He understands his triggers, his limits, and his needs. He is capable of assessing situations and people accurately without being blinded by desire or fear. He does not allow temporary emotions to dictate permanent decisions, and this emotional mastery communicates confidence, control, and value, qualities that younger women instinctively seek. Women are attracted to men who are not reactive, who do not compromise their integrity, and who act with intentionality. This is why standards are not just rules, they are expressions of self-respect and authority. It is also important to understand the long-term implications of refusing to compromise. Men who lower their standards often find themselves in relationships or situations that drain them, diminish them, or trap them in cycles of frustration. By contrast, men who maintain high standards create space for meaningful connections, authentic respect, and powerful attraction. They do not chase temporary validation, they attract sustainable desire. They do not settle, they command. And women, especially younger women, recognize the S dynamic intuitively. They sense the difference between temporary attention and enduring value. The principle is simple but profound. Choose yourself over compromise. Stand firm in your standards no matter how uncomfortable it feels. Do not allow fear of rejection, loneliness, or judgment to dictate your decisions. Invest in people and situations that honor your worth. Reject anything that undermines your self-respect. By doing so, you create an energy that is rare, magnetic, and irresistible. Women will notice. They will be drawn to the strength, discipline, and authority that is expressed through your refusal to compromise. At its core, this principle is about empowerment. Attraction is not something you earn by bending to please others. It is something you command by standing firm in your value. The man who refuses to lower his standards demonstrates self-possession, emotional control, and integrity. He communicates that he is not dependent on approval, that he is not reactive to desire, and that he is in command of his life. And in that clarity, women are drawn. Desire follows naturally. Attention comes effortlessly. Respect is automatic. So if you are compromising yourself today, if you are lowering your standards out of fear, stop. Reclaim your power. Hold your boundaries. Value yourself above temporary approval. Stand firm in your principles, your integrity, and your worth. The more you refuse to bend, the more magnetic you become, the more selective you are. The more women are drawn to you, the more consistent you remain, the more respect and desire you command. And in this, you will find that the life, the attention, and the relationships you truly deserve are naturally attracted to you. Remember this: the man who refuses to lower his standards is the man women chase. The man who refuses to compromise his self-respect is the man who commands attention. The man who chooses himself over temporary approval is the man who becomes rare, magnetic, and unforgettable. Stand firm, hold your value, refuse compromise, become the kind of man who cannot be ignored, and watch as the world and the women you desire are drawn to the power you embody naturally.